And we are live. What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. We have a Bad Empanada video to review. This one about myself. Exciting times. Let's get into it. For those who don't know, Bad Empanada and I have been having a back and forth via email. Adam and I did a video about his video on Corey. We kind of expected him to do something. It was pretty predictable. So here it is. Let's review it. I think this is actually a great opportunity because Bad Empanada and I actually have a similarity. We both care about Palestinian justice, but we have very different worldviews of what that looks like. So this stream will really be reviewing the video he did and kind of breaking down these opposing worldviews. And we'll let the viewers decide which worldview they want to subscribe to. First, before we get started, I actually would like to thank Bad Empanada for the exposure. Those who know me know that this is not my primary focus. I am an entrepreneur. I have founded, at this point, 3 companies. And while I would like to do more content, I currently cannot prioritize it to nearly the extent that I would like to. So when somebody with a much larger following like Bad Empanada uses their platform to give me exposure, I'm grateful for that. And we've already seen a nice uptick in subscribers, nice uptick in views since he released his video. So I appreciate that. Cool. Let's get into the video. We are going to, it'll be on 1.5 speed. So if you were watching this after the fact, you could slow it down if you don't like that speed. Okay. So he calls it IDF terrorist emails me thinking I'd be his friend. Let's get into it.
I had a very funny exchange.
Hold on.
I had a very funny exchange with a guy who emailed me last week. So I got an email from a guy who introduced himself immediately in the first line of the email as an IDF soldier. Straight up, I'm an IDF veteran. I was wondering if you'd like to invite me onto your stream to have a chat. Like talking to me like he's my friend. Like.
So let's just start with something. A few people have reached out and told me that Bad Empanada, who I don't know all too well, lies. So even here, he's starting with a lie. That framing is not so honest. That wasn't the email. The email, I did introduce myself, former IDF. I know it's attention grabbing. I realize he gets a lot of email. I did that. I actually gave him praise over a video he did on the Gaza death toll, gave him one area of feedback, and then said, and if you're interested, love to have you on my channel, love to be on yours. That was the email. So let's just first point out he's a little bit disingenuous in his framing. And you'll see, he makes at least 5 or 6 claims about me that are just false, completely false.
Okay, and after that exchange, I found out for someone linking me the clip that this guy went on his own stream and complained about his interaction with me. And I uploaded the clip because it was so good, okay? So Adar
finally got back to me.
Spoke about his email exchange with me here. And this is just so great and so perfect. And I want to show it to you all because he did me a favor by talking about this. It's so awesome. Listen, you guys will love it.
He finally got back to me. His email goes, quote, actually insane that you introduce yourself as a mass baby killer and expect that to give you anything you say authority rather than make me wonder why you're roaming free and not in a cell on death row. Absolutely unhinged.
Absolutely unhinged, guys. Absolutely unhinged that a mass baby killer should face punishment.
You know, I responded with kindness. I always try to get.
I responded with kindness, says the fucking occupier of Palestine.
Bit another go. I go, well, truth is, I never harmed a civilian in my time in the IDF.
Yes, you did. You can't be in the IDF and not harm civilians. What do you think your role was? What do you think it was for? By the way, just so that we're clear here, this.
Okay, so this expresses just a clear misunderstanding of Bad Empanada has a clear misunderstanding of the IDF, or he just doesn't care for truth. The overwhelming majority of IDF soldiers are not in combat roles. They're chefs, they're administrators, drivers. The overwhelming majority do not do combat, okay? So the whole idea that every single person who's part of this institution is a mass baby killer, that's a stretch that's quite hyperbolic, to say the least. Now, I will get into my role in the Army because I actually was a combat soldier. So I would say you could make a stronger case against me, but the overwhelming majority, we're not combat.
This guy's American. He wasn't born in Israel. He's an American who moved there and joined the IDF by choice. Like, it's literally a fucking guy who moved to Israel by choice. And he's like this. He thinks he's like my ally. He genuinely messaged me like he thought he was my ally and that him being an IDF veteran would make me like him more and give him like more cred with me. I can't believe it.
Is your position? Yeah, so let's talk about my role in the Army. Because it's true, I was born in the United States. I am one of the few that did not need to serve. I voluntarily served in the IDF and was in a combat role, right? So I'm not the average Israeli who served. you could make a stronger case against me than most IDF soldiers. I recognize that. I, from a very young age, grew up, have an Israeli father, put it in my mind that the IDF, that's what you do if you're a Zionist. We go to protect our people. It was never about oppressing Palestinians. It was never about causing anybody harm. I was never taught to hate Palestinians. I was taught that we need the IDF to survive. And if I love my country, that's what I'll do. From a young age, that was put in my head. And that's exactly what I did. When I say I didn't hurt anybody my time in the IDF, I would actually say that this is actually not so black and white, right? Let's talk about my service. For most of my service, I served within Israel proper, in northern Israel, Shraga base, which is a military base. But for some months, I was in the West Bank. Now, our presence in the West Bank certainly is oppressive to Palestinians, right? There's no denying that. What I primarily did was patrols, checkpoints, and guarding the actual base. At the time, I did not see anything wrong with this. I said, yeah, we're just keeping the settlement safe. You know, these are Jews. They need to be protected, keeping them safe. In terms of me not harming anybody, I never shot somebody. I never physically harmed somebody. I never abused anybody. You could make the case that I still was an occupying soldier, and certainly I can acknowledge that, right? But this whole idea that every single person who served in the IDF, even a combat soldier, right? Most of us have not harmed somebody physically. The case could be made we're part of a bad institution. I hear that, but the framing of we're all mass baby killers, there's just no basis in reality. And it took me, and just so you know, it took me a few years after getting released from the IDF that I understood that our presence in the West Bank is oppressive. I didn't realize it. I just didn't realize it at the time. Thought it's protective. Now, the IDF is interesting because it's certainly an oppressive force towards Palestinians. What we did in Gaza, in my opinion, is absolutely indefensible. But at the same time, with no IDF, Jews on the land can't be safe. So the IDF, on one hand, is a protective force to Jews living on the land, my family included, but it's also an oppressive force towards Palestinians. Right? So that's just a little bit more nuance that Bad Empanada is not interested in. Cool. Now let's continue. Okay, so this really speaks to something important, a very big difference in how we view things, right? We're the enemy, and in his mind, we need to be fought and destroyed. Whatever he means by destroyed, whether that's killed, ethnically cleansed, unclear. Now, think about this. There is no guarantee that Palestinian liberation succeeds. None whatsoever. Let's be very honest about this. Most colonized people did not win. They lost. And Bad Empanada is somebody who I believe was born in Australia and living in Argentina, two colonized lands, should know this very well. There's no guarantee that a colonized population wins. The second you take an approach that's zero-sum, as many on both sides do, which would require destroying one side or causing immense harm to one side, you will never get that side to consent. So that side would rather die trying, die fighting, than agree to your solution, right? So this idea that people pushing for a zero-sum solution are actually increasing the chance that their side loses everything. Let's talk about it in reality. If we're trying to push a solution on Israelis that will put them in danger or require everyone who served, which is like 70+% of the country, to be punished, Israelis will never willingly agree. Israelis would fight and die before that happens. This very well might lead to genocide or ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. This isn't a threat. I'm just being brutally honest. And the same goes with these Kahanists and these radical Zionists who want to ethnically cleanse Palestinians and aren't looking for a compromise. Those people are increasing the chance that Israel is one day destroyed. Those looking for a solution that both sides can consent to are ensuring that their side is included in this just solution. And in general is just working it towards something more pragmatic and more likely to succeed because it doesn't require destroying another side and fighting against their will, right? So yeah, this is a very different framework. One is a zero-sum solution that requires justice for some and injustice for others, and the other is justice for all people. one not only is more of a humanist perspective, but it's also much more pragmatic and much more likely to succeed. And it doesn't increase the chance that your side loses it all. So actually, oh wait, sorry, I just put it back on and I realized I didn't have it on the screen. Sorry. Let me back up a few moments. Hold on.
I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but your feelings don't matter.
And discuss this with you here.
Why does he have his Discord notifications on in the background? It's so annoying.
So honestly, here he's right. Either those Discord notifications were Adam or myself, it shouldn't be on. So I agree. I agree with you, Bad Empanada. Get those notifications off. So then invited him to join the live stream tonight. He responds, "Please go to Gaza."
Oh no, I hear this. This is like someone who, the guy who's, because I stole this clip from someone on Twitter who had posted this first. You have WoW battleground sounds and Discord notifications in the background. I think like someone filmed this while playing WoW or something, and that's why you have those sounds. That's hilarious.
The support of Israeli allies, or is more like without the support of Israeli allies. And then I go, if you feel strongly about this, happy to debate and discuss this with you here. I also then invited him to join the live stream tonight. He responds, "Please go to Gaza and turn yourself into the nearest police station." To which I responded, "Sure thing, buddy."
So what do you guys think of my response there? Do you think it was good or bad? Let me know in the comments down below. I think it is literally perfectly exactly how you should respond to someone who introduces themselves as a fucking Israeli soldier right off the bat. Like, what the fuck? The guy's a Zionist as well, obviously. Like, he's not like a repentant Zionist. He's a Zionist, full-on Zionist. And then I sent...
Wait. Okay, the guy's a Zionist as well, a full-on Zionist. What does he mean by this? First of all, I don't describe myself as a Zionist. I think the term Zionist is actually dumb and causes more confusion than it solves problems. Most Zionists will say it just means Jewish self-determination on our ancestral homeland. Anti-Zionists look at it as akin to Jewish supremacy. They're more so. Anti-Zionists are looking at Zionism in practice and what it's meant, and Zionists are often describing it in theory. So I actually think I think the anti-Zionists have a case to describe Zionism as it is in practice. I don't support Israel in its current formation. Certainly not. If you think Zionism is supporting the state of Israel in its current form, then I'm an anti-Zionist. I do support Jewish self-determination the same way I support Palestinian self-determination, the same way I support Kurdish self-determination. These don't require a special term. Let's just say what we mean. I support the self-determination. In terms of the institutions that we build on the land, well, I try to look at the needs and desires of both people. For Jews, our primary priority is to be safe. Palestinians want a sense of justice. They want equality. They want access to the whole land. I would support any solution that provides this, whether it's one state, two states, federation, confederation. I care about institutions that are protecting the rights of the people. The solution that I generally lean towards is actually a one-state solution in the form of a federation. So he's just making false claims about me. And again, people have warned me that he does lie. So this is just a clear lie. Clear lie. Let's continue.
Sent him a follow-up response as well, saying, "You live on another people's land in another people's country. You were never given any permission by them to go there. You just decided that it was your racial birthright to take their land. You were already well off in the USA, and you choose to go there. You choose to join a terrorist group, and you choose to massacre them. And then you come here and you speak to me like you're my friend and their friend, rather than a vile demon to be crushed in battle. The lines are drawn, and you will be on the opposite side when the time comes. That is the truth. I'm sick of being nice to these people. I'm sick of pretending that just because they are Jewish, we shouldn't talk to them in the exact same terms we would talk to a Nazi, because that's ultimately what this guy is, a Nazi. Imagine someone introducing them to you as like a former fucking Wehrmacht soldier who moved to Germany voluntarily to join the Wehrmacht and participate in the Eastern Campaign, and telling you that he's actually a nice liberal Nazi who's on your side, and him having the gall to act shocked when you react by just basically laughing in his face. That's what that is. And I think it's
great. So first of all, I agree the lines have been drawn. On one side, it's the humanists, which are Israelis, Palestinians, and people around the world who want to find a just solution to this conflict. On the other side, it's the extremists, whether it's a Kahanist or someone like Bad Empanada that's looking only for justice for one side. Now, another area where Bad Empanada and I differ, I believe that anybody could cross these lines. You could be radicalized and join Bad Empanada's camp and call for the ethnic cleansing or injustice towards one people, or you could understand that the humanist approach is the right approach and join our side. Bad Empanada seems to think that there's no room for redemption. Once you've done something, it's set in stone. You can't cross lines. It's just a very different worldview. Now, in terms of comparison to Nazis, I'm not even going to get into the nuances and why it's not a great comparison. Let's just entertain this comparison. What happened to most Nazis? They weren't charged with any crimes. If you want to compare me to a Nazi, okay. How many Nazis were charged with war crimes? I believe it's a few dozen, maybe 30, maybe 44. Let's see. How many Nazis were charged with war crimes? 24, 2 dozen out of millions of Nazis. I'm okay if you charge a few dozen IDF with war crimes. Netanyahu, I would love to see him charged as a war criminal. Anybody who, all the leadership that was involved in the destruction of Gaza, certainly. But we didn't charge most Germans, most Nazis with the crime, and for good reason. Justice is not retributional. In general, criminal justice should be about building the best society as possible, keeping dangerous people out of society, creating a deterrent against bad behavior, and justice for the families. All of this can be provided without charging every single IDF soldier with the crime. In my opinion, it lacks a level of emotional immaturity, right, to think that retribution is necessary. No, we need to build the best world possible. Now, interestingly, it brings up Nazi Germany. After World War I, the world collectively punished the German people. And this is one of the reasons why Hitler rose to power. After World War II, we understood collective punishment is wrong. Let's help Germany rebuild and integrate them into society. So if he wants to use this comparison to Nazism, I mean, then he has no basis to say what he's currently saying. None. And let's go on to say, he says, if a former Nazi wanted to work towards reconciliation with Jews, would I be against that? Why would I be against that? And let me put it out there. My entire mom's side of the family were killed by Nazis. I don't think all Nazis should have been put in jail. Those Nazis did not pose a danger to Jews once Nazi Germany fell. So again, it's not retributional. We just need to find just solutions. That doesn't require punishing everybody who served in an institution that causes harm. That's literally how children think. Let's continue. And actually, maybe that's not right to say that's how children think, because I think a lot of children really have a lot of peace and love in their hearts. So maybe that's not the right comparison. But to me, it just comes off as just being emotionally immature. You see, again, wait, hold on. I realized I just watched more without. I gotta remember to put this on every time I watch more. Hold on. There we go.
We shouldn't. It makes no sense. These aren't allies. These are enemies. This guy is opposed to Palestinian liberation, not for it. Ultimately, his goal is to secure the future of the Jewish ethno-state. He's basically 14 words, but for Jews. That guy's ideology ultimately is entirely self-serving. He supports, concessions to the Palestinians out of the belief that it would be good in the long term for the Jewish state.
Right, again, so here he's just making false assumptions about what I believe. Currently, if you ask most people living on the land if they want an ethno-state, both Jews and Palestinians want to live in their own ethno-state, right? Now, if we could find a way for both sides to agree to have ethno-states side by side, I'm not going to fight that. But again, I would prefer a federation, which is not an ethno-state. It's a state that gives a lot of autonomy to both people and protects the rights of all people. But to say that my everything I'm doing is to protect the Jewish ethno-state, I don't advocate for a Jewish ethno-state, right? So again, he's just lying. It's a lie. Let's continue.
Nothing else. It's fundamentally for segregation, for ethnostatism. That guy's motto and the motto of liberal Zionists like him is we must secure the existence of our people and a future for Jewish children. That's it. They believe in the 14 words, but for Jews. And ultimately, that's not okay just because they're Jewish instead of white. It's insane that we have to pretend otherwise. Like the fucking liberal Zionists, the left Zionists, what they believe in is it would be nice if we could take the whole land, but I think it's not possible and we will destroy ourselves if we try. So we need to make some concessions. We need to come to a compromise if our ethno-nationalist project is continued. Because the worst thing that could happen to us is one state without racial separation. That's literally our fucking nightmare. And yeah, that's basically the crux of it. These people are my enemy. And don't worry, we have a very in-depth main channel video coming soon on liberal Zionism and Jewish exceptionalism that explains all of this very, very, very well in depth. And
okay, I mean, that's the gist of it. Maybe we'll do some Q&A. I'll share some final thoughts. But clearly, there's two worldviews. One is grounded in humanism and justice for all people, also rooted in pragmatism. The other is fueled by hate and looks for justice for one and not for the other. What's more likely to succeed? Probably one that involves both people, a solution that both sides can consent to, a side that's just for all people living on the land. But if you want to keep fighting this fight that requires the destruction or harming the other side, go for it. You and Kahanis are on the same side. You think you're different from the Kahanis calling for ethnically cleansing Palestinians, but psychologically, let's be honest, former IDF, Israeli, Jewish, psychologically, Bad Empanada is much closer to a far right Israeli settler than myself, right? And someone with this psychological profile, born in Israel, would support Bibi, would support the destruction of Gaza very clearly. So I hope this provides some perspective into two different worldviews. What worldview do you subscribe to? And to everybody who's new to this channel, right? If this is your first content you're watching here, welcome. Our goal is simple. We want to bring people together for conversations, despite our differences, and work towards reconciliation. We focus primarily on Israel-Palestine, but we sometimes touch on other topics as well. And we are currently we are also building a new company called headon.ai. The idea for Headon is to actually scale civil discourse. So one of the things I've learned through this channel, and my co-founder learned through watching this channel, is how hard it is to scale civil discourse. Right, it requires facilitation. Two people with opposing viewpoints generally don't find common ground if the gap between them is too great. We are building an AI facilitator that will help people speak longer, understand each other better, and ultimately find common ground. We believe we found a way to scale civil discourse to millions of people around the world. And that's what we're currently working on. We have this awesome Discord community that we're using before we launched the platform. So if anybody wants to join our Discord, you're more than welcome to. We do over a dozen conversations every single week, and we have a nice diverse crew of people. Oh, also interestingly, I did notice that there are some Palestinian friends did hop into the comments, or at least one that I saw on the Bad Empanada. So Justin, who frequents on the show, is a Palestinian. So Bad Empanada, I'm Palestinian, and Adar's my friend. He was in the army, and he's now working for peace. If you slam his past, would you also slam Miko Peled and Gidon Levy, who are also in the Israeli army, but are some of Palestine's strongest advocates? Will you call for them to be arrested, or would you call them criminals? So I think that's an interesting question. But I actually think Bad Empanada very well might think people like Gidon Levy and Miko Peled are an enemy. Anyways, those who want to join the Discord, we'd love to have you join. The one thing is that you come and engage in good faith. You listen to other opinions. You do your best to find common ground. Cool. Let's see some comments. I see there's a lot. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Let's see. We have Elisa David saying, I identify as a fangirl. Well, thank you. It feels good to have a few fangirls up in here. Fafullah saying, Adar, this guy literally supports killing or displacement every Israeli Jew. He lies about anyone he disagrees with. He lied about Lonerbach's family. He said they were phalangists in Lebanon. Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about Empanada, but the video he just put out on me has many areas of misinformation, things that just straight up aren't true that he said about me. So he's certainly not an honest actor. And that's, I think, another difference. Some people think it's okay to lie to prove your point. Right. And again, I'm debunking these people on Twitter all the time, all these people that are casting doubt on the death toll in Gaza. I've done many debunkings of calling them out. So, I mean, Bad Empanada is just that on the other side. He thinks it's okay to lie if it helps prove his point. If you believe in truly in what you're saying, you could prove that point with honesty. Right. Let our arguments rest on their merit. We don't need to lie. We don't need to lie to prove our point. Well, he's a liar. So Antonius is saying you can watch the video and have a laugh, but I'm saying there's no point in taking him seriously. So I've heard this from a few people, and I actually have come to agree. I will speak to anybody. I'm down to have a conversation with Bad Empanada, but I agree that he does not seem to be a good faith actor, and he's not even a true ally to Palestinians. Here's another point. Bad Empanada currently is decreasing the chance that we ever get Palestinian liberation because he fuels this radical zero-sum worldview, right? His presence in this world is currently decreasing the chance that we ever see Palestinian liberation. So I'm not doing this for him. I don't give a shit about him. But I would like to bring some of his viewers, some of his supporters over to this other approach, this other worldview, and I think we have successfully done so, right? So I'm doing this for the people, not for Bad Empanada. I don't give a shit about him. Let's see. Hero Bean says you do advocate for an ethnostate. Okay, show me where I advocate for that, buddy. All right, a lot of commentary, not all too many Q&A. Okay, I say we move this over to the Discord. Bill's saying interview Peter Beinart. You know, I actually had Peter Beinart on a few years ago. I'd be down to reach out to him again. He's a good guy. Oh, I see we have a comment from LinkedIn, Gerard Iovino. If you're still here, not sure if you remember me from Randolph. I remember you. Of course I remember you. We used to deliver pizzas together back in the day. Unrelated question from Fafalo. What's your take on Elon's Nazi salute? I don't know. I mean, I don't think Elon's a Nazi. I think he was potentially doing that to be controversial because he kind of does have that troll energy. My take on Elon is I think he's partially philosemitic, where he has a preference for Jews because he very seems to prefer people who are successful in business. That's why notice he's very supportive of bringing in foreigners to work in tech companies if they have the right merit. But then at the same time, he's spreading xenophobia against Pakistanis in England and places in Europe. So what the difference between an Indian and a Pakistani, right? It's that the Indians he wants to bring in America are proven to be good developers, so he wants to bring them in. The Pakistanis are just brown people that I think he's just less comfortable with them being part of Western society. So I think he has a preference to Jews, but I also think he probably does not love the consolidation of Jewish power. So I think he's not a fan of the ADL. He probably doesn't like AIPAC. The relationship between the U.S. and Israel, I'm not quite sure. So I think he probably has a complicated relationship with the Jewish people. I don't think he was doing that intentionally. Like, it might have been intentional, but not because he's Nazi, just because he's a troll. And it also could have just been actually not intentional. We've seen many world leaders do something very similar. You know, people took examples from other leaders doing a very similar pose. So I don't know. That said, you know, Elon Musk used to be one of the people that I have the most respect for in this world. Today, he's one of the people I respect the least. You know, I think it's actually a very clear display of autism in a very public way. Many people who are autistic have a superpower in one area, but then are very weak in another area. And he's described himself as autistic. So when it comes to his ability to build and innovate and, you know, understand the future and run multiple companies simultaneously, I mean, he stands in a league of his own, right? That's his strength. But then when it comes to this like political commentary and his emotional maturity, I mean, that is a great weakness of his. So, you know, he had this ability to be this like unifier, connecting both sides, trying to provide nuance to the conversation, trying to foster greater understanding. And he just went full MAGA, promotes conspiracy theories, promotes, you know, accounts that are very clearly racist and problematic. So I've lost a tremendous amount of respect for him, to the point where, like, at this point, I wouldn't buy a Tesla. I would just get a different EV. Fuck it, I would drive the German Mercedes, right? That my Holocaust survivor grandma still won't get in. I'd get a Mercedes EV over Tesla today. And that's not saying I prefer Nazis over Elon Musk. I just don't view the Mercedes as a Nazi vehicle, even though it used to be. PN says autism excuse is BS. At best, he's barely on the spectrum. Okay, I hear that. Hero Beans is asking, if I say I don't advocate for an ethnostate, why do you believe in a Jewish state then? Why serve in the IDF? Well, when I served in the IDF, I was a right-wing Zionist. This was, I got out of the IDF 14 years ago, right? People, you know, I was in the IDF from ages 18 to 21. I'm currently 35. People, you know, that gives someone time to see the world and understand things differently. So when I served in the IDF, and I still recognize the IDF is protecting my family, right? But I wouldn't serve in that institution today because of its excesses and the oppression it causes Palestinians. But do I believe in a Jewish state? I don't think that's not how I describe it. I believe in an institution that would keep Jews living on the land safe. There's many different ways to build that institution. That's what I support. And I support an institution that provides justice for Palestinians. So I think that's a better framework to look at it. We like to say Jewish state, Palestinian state, ethnostate. I think that it causes us to just get caught up in semantic arguments. I think let's really talk about what we mean. So yeah, I would support any institution that would ensure the security of the Jews and justice for Palestinians. I think that's a better way to look at it. Somebody's saying Nazis of a feather. Musk has not been diagnosed with autism. His symptoms are more in line with ASPD psychopathy. Interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure. Tether Go Brewer says, how is committing genocide while avoiding armed men protecting your family? It's just committing a genocide. So you're talking about Gaza, right? So I imagine you're new here, but for the past 15 months, I've maybe been one of the most vocal former IDF soldiers against what Israel's doing in Gaza. I've put out reviews, analyses, debunkings. So I think what Israel did in Gaza actually amounts to one of the worst atrocities of the 21st century. And I often state this. But if tomorrow the IDF was dismantled, Jews in the following months would be genocided. I mean, this is just reality. So two things can be true at once. What Israel did in Gaza is indefensible. The occupation of the West Bank is oppressive. Yet in the land between the river and the sea, you have 7 million Jews living, and they require that force for their security. That doesn't mean what we did in Gaza is essential for security. It's not. That doesn't mean occupation of the West Bank is essential for security. It's not. But the majority of the Jews are not. You only have around 500,000 Jews living in the West Bank. 6 million are living in Israel proper. The IDF keeps them safe. So it's not as black and white as that. And this is also why the Nazi comparison doesn't work. The Nazis weren't keeping the Germans safe, right? I don't think that case can be made. Okay, y'all want to do an after party on Discord? Want to have some discussion there? Let's drop a link. I closed my Discord this time just to not have notifications popping off that Bad Empanada's recommendation, which she was right about. I do have a busy work day, so I could probably do 30 minutes in the after party. I'm going to drop a link. If you want, you join. On the left-hand side, it says, just get in the lobby. We'll do it in the lobby. It says lobby, join the lobby. We'll have a chat there. And yeah, signing off, friends. Thank you all for tuning in. And we'll do at least one more stream this week, maybe 2 more streams. So stay tuned, friends. Much love to you all.